Okay, so the five of you guys are in the same chapter here because we all very, very, very much need to dedicate time, effort, and energy into cleaning up our arm path. Because all five of you guys are moving your arms in a way that when it's time to begin to throw, our arms are not in a strong, healthy, loaded position. So we want to be working on cleaning up our arm paths so that way when our front foot gets into the ground and it's time to throw, our arm is in a strong, healthy position to throw from. We'll let all five of you guys watch your video one time through. We'll play it a second time and we'll pause it when that front foot gets in the ground so that way we can see just where everybody is at when it's time to throw. And then we will use big league videos to help us understand where we need to be and therefore help us understand the changes we're going to need to make. So each of us will get to watch our video once now through, and then on the second time we will pause it when that front foot gets into the ground. So second time, which will get paused when that front foot hits the ground, which is our point in our delivery where our upper body needs to be ready to throw from. So here again, when that front foot finally gets all the way into the ground, we can just see how late everything is with the lower half to fire. The heel is already in the ground and our lower half has not rotated yet. Foot is finally in the ground and now our whole body has rotated. So here's the position really where we are about to start the throw from. Get our next guy, we allow the same thing, watch it one time all the way through. On the second time we will pause it when your front foot gets in the ground, which is the moment in time our upper body needs to be loaded and ready to throw. So like we talked about all last year, it's fine to have a compact arm, a short arm path, but yours just goes straight to this ear and it can't stay in a loaded position. And because it can't stay in a loaded position, the hand is just going to keep getting closer and closer to the ear, so that now that that foot is in the ground, we went from the ball being here, almost scraping our ear with our finger, to now going out and back around. And once that foot gets in the ground, we're in a tight angle, and then as we go to throw, that angle gets out. So now we can say that we are throwing around. We are casting our arm out to throw. Most of the energy of this throw is going out, is going up and out. And the reason it's going up and out is because of where it's starting from. And where it starts from is this point in time when that foot gets in the ground and we have this very tight angle. Go to our next guy and we do the same thing and let you watch your video one time all the way through. And at the second time we play it, we'll pause it when your front foot hits the ground, which is our loaded position to throw from. On this second time through, just note how your throwing hand flips the baseball upwards as it comes out of your hand. The ball quite literally like goes and faces the sky right here. You can see how your hand is underneath the baseball right now. And then now when that front foot gets in the ground, again, that foot getting into the ground. And we can see where your upper body is at in terms of positioning to throw from. We can see everything shows us that when you go to rotate, this arm is going to have to go up. This arm is going to have to go up. This arm is going to have to go up. When the mound is going down, we have gone down and our throw needs to go down. And if your arm is going up when everything needs to go down, tremendous stress gets added. So we'll have Davis do the same thing, watching your video one time through uninterrupted. Then we'll play it a second time and pause it when your front foot gets in the ground so we can see where your upper body is at and loaded to make its throw from. So foot's in the ground right here, right here, right here. That foot's in the ground. And there's our position that your body is loaded and wanting to throw from. And we get to our final guy. We can see we have multiple things that we need to be paying attention to and working on. The main thing that we are going to be discussing is, however, that arm path and how and where it gets to, when it gets to it, and how we need to make those changes. Because everything else in your delivery that we need to clean up is just to help us have more power opportunities and have better command over our pitches. The arm path that we really need to discuss is going to help us with a healthy arm, a safe arm, one that can throw with some power, and one that can throw accurately. So again, pausing you in that front foot, front foot, front foot, front foot gets into the ground, and we can see the position that you are going to be throwing from. So if I then get my marker out here and we can see all 5 of you guys and where you're at this moment of time, and we draw lines from shoulder to shoulder on everybody, shoulder to elbow, elbow to hand. We get the next guy over, we'll drop you down a little bit, and we got shoulder to shoulder, shoulder to elbow, elbow to hand. That wasn't the straightest line. There we go. We get another guy, we'll go down even more. And we got shoulder to shoulder, shoulder to elbow, elbow to hand. Bring another guy, we got our lefty, shoulder to shoulder, shoulder to elbow, elbow to hand. And our final guy, we'll put down even more. And it's tough to even draw our angles because these shoulders are already rotating, the elbow's already rotating, and the hand is up. So if we then come back to the beginning, there's one. Arms, this is our loaded position from which we're going to throw from. We throw once that front foot gets in the ground, your front foot's in the ground, so this is our loaded position with our upper body. We come to our next guy, and we got shoulders tilting backwards away from the target. We got elbow beneath the shoulders, and then we got the 90-degree bend in the elbow that we're looking for. So of all the positions of our shoulders to elbow, and our elbow to hand, we only have elbow to hand in a good spot. We then come to our next guy, and we can see the same thing. Your shoulders are kind of tilted back still. Your elbow is slightly lower than that shoulder angle, but your elbow is in that 90 degrees. So you're, again, got one of the things that we're looking for. We come over, to our lefty, and we got good shoulder alignment. We got good shoulder to elbow, but we got this super tight angle here. And like we already said, that angle is then going to come back out to get into this 90. And once it starts going this way, and our shoulders are rotating this way, that arm is going to end up continuing to go this way. And now we are casting that arm out versus rotating it forward. So and like we already said, this foot should be down before these shoulders even start to rotate. But we're already starting to rotate. But even if we did pause it when that heel first hit, we can see shoulder's good, but then we got this elbow up here, and this hand is not even flipped up. So this is our way of seeing where we are getting everything loaded to when it comes time to throw. And again, it's time for us to throw when this front foot hits the ground. And what we can see is when your guys' front foot is getting into the ground, our upper bodies are in positions that are not ideal, not strong, not healthy to throw from. So we will look now at these big league videos and see how their bodies are positioned when their front foot gets in the ground. And then we will look at how they are getting there. So that way you guys can start to understand the changes you need to make on how to get your arms to better, stronger, loaded positions. Everyone has a slightly different arm path. Everyone hands separate slightly different to start their hand path. But ultimately, everyone is getting to very similar checkpoints in their arm path along the way. And that first checkpoint that we're going to want to look at is the moment that our front foot gets into the ground at foot strike. So we got 4 guys here that all have drastically different arm paths, are drastically different statures. We got starters, we got closers. We got guys who have had Tommy John. We've got guys who have not had Tommy John. All different sorts of things here in the mix. And what we're going to notice is as these guys flow through their delivery, that the body needs to flow with the arm. And once our front foot gets down into the ground, it's time for the upper body to begin its throw, which means our arm needs to be loaded up and ready to throw when the front foot gets into the ground. And what a throwing or a ready throwing position looks like for the arm at the moment of our front foot getting into the ground is this 90 degree angles that we see in our elbow and our armpit. So we look at Class A and we can see that 90 degree bend in the elbow and 90 degree bend at the armpit. And then same thing with Garrett Cole and with Dylan Cease. So then we draw those same lines and we go shoulder to shoulder, shoulder to elbow, elbow to hand, shoulder to shoulder, shoulder to elbow, elbow to hand, shoulder to shoulder, shoulder to elbow, elbow to hand, and the same thing here, shoulder to shoulder, shoulder to elbow. It looks like it's going down, but that's just because we are slightly in front of him and his arm is so far back into his back muscles, and then it's up. So we can see how if we then also drew that kind of like a line down the side of their body to help us visually see that 90 degree bend in that armpit, or showing that the elbow is up and not down. And when we say up, we're referring to the plane of the shoulders. It's in line with the shoulders and it's not going down. And then leaving that arm back out this way where we have this square root sign. We don't want a square root sign. We want just this right here, this L. When we can get that 90 degree bend in that elbow at the point of ready to throw, which again is when this front foot gets in the ground, we are now in a strong, healthy position to throw from. We can see some guys have that 90-90 of the arm loaded further back into their scapula, their shoulder blade. So the righty's back towards first base, where others are more straight in line with their body at this point in time. But we can see everybody's shoulders coming through are right at the target, and that throwing arm is still loaded up. It has not begun to rotate through because front foot gets in the ground, then it's time to throw. So seeing this good 90-90 with our head looking over our shoulders tells us at this moment at which it's about to become time to throw, our arm is in a position to throw. Now, we may have noticed as we were going really slow through there that first time that each of these guys have drastically different arm paths to get to the same or very, very similar position here. If we look and focus just on Ben Joyce here in the top left, we will notice that his arm very quickly goes from falling out of the glove to kind of going back towards his back foot, and now he's beginning to load it up. Okay, and now it's loaded up and ready to go in the 90-90. So if we do that again, we can see it's falling out of the glove and coming up, loading up, staying loaded up, because now it's time to throw. Guys that have this type of arm path here, where they get in trouble is at the moment of foot strike, they're not in this 90-degree bend here. The hand has continued to get closer and closer to the head, and now their arm is here. So guys that have this arm coming out early and the hand kind of almost working like an hour hand on a clock. So there's like 7 o'clock, here comes 8 o'clock, then we're at 9 o'clock, up to 10, now we're at 11, and then we got to make sure when it comes time to throw that we're at this 12. A lot of times, especially with young kids who have this bigger, longer, loopier arm path, by the time they get the foot strike here, they're at 1:30, maybe even 2 o'clock. So then when they go to throw, that arm's got to flip back out of that, and then that's when you start to get that arm to cast out and around. So we can see that Joyce, obviously being an elite thrower of the baseball, has been able to get this arm to stay at that point in time. So then when we proceed out of foot strike, we can see it's the shoulders rotating forward that's laying his arm into max external rotation at the point in time where the shoulders are lined up with the target. And the only way we can get this great synchronization of the arm laying back at the moment of that chest getting to in line with the target is if it starts from this position here at foot strike. So we got a longer arm slot over here, and we'll go to a shorter arm slot over here with Dylan Cease. So we'll take that back and we'll watch Dylan take that ball out, boom, to the knee. So it's not going back. Oops, it's not going back like Joyce was as early. Now it's kind of just holding right here. And it's coming up, 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 to get to its 90-90. And so, boom. Right? So where I see guys who have this form of a very compact arm path, where I see guys that get in trouble with it, is they don't allow this. They don't allow for that initial hang and let me just gain some ground with my body down the mound before I load it back up in this tight window. right? We can have a short, compact arm, but we can't have a short, compact, fast developing arm. Because it doesn't take up a lot of distance, we're not taking up a lot of time. And this delivery takes time to develop in order to get here. So if we're short and compact and we're fast to get this elbow to bring this arm up, we're going to be struggling to not want to fire that back shoulder early because the hand got up and wanting to go quick and early. So for guys that have compact arms, compact arm paths, we need to think about a Dylan Cease. We still have that bend in that elbow of whatever flexion you want it to be in, but we just kind of dead man hang it there. Just dead man hang it there for as long as you possibly can, and then once you can't dead man hang it, let it develop. So we got the short and the long. So if we kind of just do a little tracer to kind of compare those for us. Oops, that doesn't look good. Boom. Boom. To the 90-90 right there. So we got something kind of like that. And then we got Dylan Cease. Right there. So you can kind of visually see those two paths being just a little different from one another. But they both have very similar themes. But the ball's got to fall out of the glove first. And then it's coming up into that 90-90 by the time we get the foot strike. So now we can go down and look at a guy like Garrett Cole. And just because we got those two markers up there, we'll start his as well. So there's that ball falling out of the glove, falling down that dead man hang. His hang is just a little bit more of a straighter elbow bend, and then bringing that up into his 90-90. So if we just kind of look at the overall path, it's similar, more similar to Ben Joyce's than Dylan Cease's, but we can see this little arm stroke or this little swoop of the arm is a lot more compact for Dylan Cease than it is for Ben Joyce. All right, and then we can draw some parallels between all three of them in a manual Class A. And that is the length or the straightness of the arm that Ben Joyce has. Emmanuel Class A has it as well, but instead of it going back towards second base like Joyce does, Class A lets his dead hang straight on down behind his back knee there. Right, it's going straight on down back there. And then it's loading back into his back like Dylan Cease does. But Emmanuel Class A loads it into his back with a straighter arm and then loads that elbow up as he gets there. Where Dylan Cease is coming at that from more of a compact arm position, a little bit more of an elbow bend to begin with. But it's very similar in that regard. Right, so we can see how there's like that check mark like movement in Class A and Dylan Cease versus the like I don't even know what kind of shape you would call this, like a candy cane, I guess, kind of, that Garrett Cole and Ben Joyce have. So we can see there's different arm paths, but everyone's getting to this 90-90 at the moment of foot strike. And one of the biggest things that we can see is that these paths, and if I get this out of the way so you can see that pitching rubber a little better again, their paths are very close to either the back knee, like Cease and Clase, or they're going back towards that back foot, like Cole and Joyce. But everyone is getting that arm loaded up, not just up to 90-90, but getting it loaded into their back muscles, getting it loaded up behind their head so that way it can rotate in front of the head. And what we notice is all these guys, when they get their chest all the way to the target, is that the point at which they are at their most externally rotated back, externally rotated back, externally rotated back. We got to go back a little bit further for Cease. Right there, externally rotated back. And then the chest continues to go to continue to bring that arm all the way through. So we play that one more time. We'll see the arms flow into that 90-90 and then flowing out of the 90-90. All right, so now we got to use our resources to get better. Go on the YouTube page. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone should be following it. Right here, how to get better. Holy smokes, do I want a stronger arm? 57 different videos that probably have a total of 250 different ways to get your arm stronger. Mobility and stability and balance could probably be very helpful for us if we are doing some of these exercises here to get our legs stronger and better balance. We can also be going into this mechanical drills playlist and we can be looking at different drills here that can help us improve our mechanics. Now, there's nothing in here specific for arm paths, but we can be doing things like hand separation drill. We can be doing slide pad movements. All of these things can be done to help us learn how to get that arm in a better movement pattern. We can also be working on something like this to help us learn how to rotate things forward. So really all you guys need to do to work on this, okay, is getting yourself up against the wall with a mirror in front of you. So in your bathroom is perfect. Where you can see from shoulder to shoulder is nice and level. Get your throwing arm out to the side so that from shoulder to elbow is level. And then stage one is just working on getting his arm loaded up until the back of the hand touches that wall. And we got that 90 degrees in the elbow, and we have the 90 degrees in the armpit. And we can just be doing this. You can have a baseball in your hand. You can have a can of soup in your hand. You can have your baseball glove in your hand. You could have a heavy baseball or object in your hand. And it's just working this movement here, learning how to get this up while the elbow stays even with the shoulder. Right? Once you do that a bunch of times, then you can go on to stage two. Stage two would be starting from like hands were together and then they came apart, right? Then you can either keep the glove arm out there or you can get rid of that glove arm, right? And then it's working to get this elbow to come up, the elbow to come up as the hand is also coming up. So you got, again, shoulder to elbow in that straight line, and then you got your 90 and 90 and the elbow and the armpit. So it's, you're down here, and then it's elbows coming up as the hand's loading up. Elbows coming up as the hand's loading up. Elbows coming up as the hand's loading up. Boom. And then stage three would be starting with the hands together, getting them to where stage two just started, and then getting it up to there. Boom, 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 boom. Obviously, I'm looking at it as I'm doing it. You would be just looking right in the mirror as you do it. And then once you get good at stage three, stage four can just be all those movements together without any of those pauses. Or just go from stage three all the way to stage one, where there's no pause at two. Boom, and then get it up. Boom, and then get it up. Boom, and then get it up, right? You can challenge yourself by doing some of those movements continuously and then isolating one of them. And then you can get all the way to boom, all one motion. Boom, all one motion. But just repping it out, repping it out, repping it out. Hundreds of reps a day, day after day after day after day after day, week after week, month after month. And by the time it gets to the season, you won't have to think about it no more. It'll just be happening the way you want it to. All right, Vivio, we got your video to watch here 2 times. After the second time, we will revisit that note and get you a big league video to help you understand what we're trying to accomplish. And then we'll send you on with where you can find drills to start working on this. We're at the point now where your body is big and strong, but how we're trying to produce and send power is weak. So if we want to be able to utilize strength that our body has to incorporate into our throw, we need to learn how to get this front foot down first, then rotate your upper half. And then another thing to think about is keeping the arm loaded longer. So if we look when your front foot does get down, we'll pause the video so you can see where your upper body is positioned and where your throwing arm is located at. So boom, here's that front foot getting into the ground. And what we can notice is as it's getting into the ground, this elbow is starting to throw. Our upper body is starting to rotate. We're starting to rotate. We're starting to rotate. And because we are starting to rotate early, our upper body wants nothing to do with getting down and out and reaching out in front at release. We will watch and notice how your body's just going to stay upright. Your chest goes down 0. All you are doing is just spinning this upper body in place. And because we're just spinning this upper body in place, everything just kind of gets flung out. Everything's just getting flung out instead of thrown forward. So your arm slot is artificially down and low when it should be probably about 2-3 inches higher. So that ball coming out here, be coming out about right here. Still low 3/4, but not having to tilt our body this way just to try to get the arm to come through. All right, we can see because we're not rotating forward, we're going to instead just kind of try to get some energy by going off this way. We can see when that front foot gets down in the ground, it just gets softer. And the reason it's getting softer is because we're not trying to go down with it. And if we were trying to go down with it, this would want to get firmer. So your arm path is one that it's getting back here, but oops, wrong 2 buttons. It's getting back here, but you're not able to maintain it back there as your foot's getting in the ground. And now you're starting to throw already. You're starting to throw before that foot gets all the way in the ground. Foot down, then we can begin to rotate the upper half. And we got to keep that arm loaded longer if we want to not have this elbow start to want to rotate early. We got to keep it loaded longer. We got to find a way to keep it back here longer instead of just barely getting here and then instantly wanting to rotate out of there. So we can see your body knows I'm going to have to do just an absolute enormous amount of forced energy, of forcing power. You're already geared up right here to have to just force it because nothing is going down this way. You have to try to force it around this way. Instead of getting that foot down, holding this back, and then firing it down and out. All right, we'll use one big league example for you here. And we'll just, my cursor's already there, you might as well use Cole. Okay. Keeping the throwing arm loaded back until after the front foot hits the ground. At this point, your elbow would already start to be coming through. We're going to see at this point that elbow stays back and the hand is going to load up. Now that foot's in the ground. Shoulders have not rotated at all. Right? We get even weight into that ground. Here's that bend. He goes to throw, gets firm, and where's he at release? Here's the ball coming out. Here's his chest at release. Take it backwards in time. Where did it get when it landed? Straight up and down. He slammed his chest down. He got his hand out in front as much as he could at release. Energy and power. Energy to power. Versus just slinging the ball side to side. And we can even see there's so much side to side and not forward and down that your foot can't even hold that. Your knees got to keep going. Everything now is popped over here, because you literally were just sending all your power over here instead of sending it here. And then, yes, finishing it here, but because it all went this way, towards the target. So, a lot of things that we need to be working on, and we got to use our resources to do so. Going on the YouTube page, right? And scrolling down. Oh, I want to get better. Here it is. How to get better. Stronger arm care, 57 videos. If you need better lower body, which definitely could use right here. So view the playlist. We can come down here and we need to look for something that's going to help you be able to get yourself out in front more, right? Find something that looks like it could be helpful. RDL reaches right there. Boom. This is it. That's going to be big help for you. Be doing that every single day. Then you come over to the mechanical drill playlist. Getting ourselves out in front. Another one that we could be using right there. All right, Kim, we're going to let you watch your video 2 times here through. And then we'll revisit the note that was provided here at the beginning of your chapter before we get a big league video up there for you to be able to see what we're really trying to work on. And then we will show you where you can find the drills to help you begin to work on this mechanical adjustment. So one more time, watching the video, I do want you to note, I did not put it in your notes, but just kind of see where your front foot lands and how it's kind of overly rotated, how it's kind of pointing into first base dugout there. Something for you to think about is just trying to get that foot to be a little bit more straight towards the target, just to help us keep our energy sent towards our target. But all in all, you got really good mechanics, dude. The one thing I will say is we want to establish some early momentum in our delivery. So if I just kind of draw a line here, and they don't have to be very straight, we're just using these to be able to help us see movement. And I put some in front of you as well. Let's kind of get one here and here. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to take you through your leg lift, and we're going to pause it by the time you get to the top of your leg lift, and we're going to see, has your body gained any momentum to the target? Have we gained any ground to the target? So the leg comes up, and we can see almost, in fact, if we note where your nose is at, we can say it's between these 2 lines here. And then as that leg comes up, we're going to notice that your upper body kind of tilts backwards. And now your nose is between these 2 lines. And we also kind of note your nose started at about this height right there. And then it'll ultimately get to just about the line that I drew in that alley right there. All right, so we've gone, if I continue this out some more, and I continue this out some more, we've gone down roughly that much, and we've gone backwards, I don't know, roughly that much. Okay. And our body as a whole has not gained any momentum or gained any ground towards the target. It looks like we have, because here's our hip popped out here, but if we go backwards in time, we understand the only reason the hip is out there is because the shoulders are back here. So we really haven't established any momentum to the target. We've just simply leaned backwards. So we are leaning backwards to try to build up our power meter. This is a way to build up power. But what we're going to see here is we're going to have to use some of this power now to get us going to the target. All right, so now we've used some of that power to get our body going this way, because it was originally going in a backwards and downward movement, which looked like that. So to stop that momentum, to stop this energy and redirect it this way, we were going this way in hopes to build up power. But then we had to use some of that power to start going forward again. So we built up more than we're going to be able to use. So if we can think about establishing some momentum early in our delivery, we're not going to have to lean back as much to feel power getting loaded up. Power is already going to start to load up as that leg is coming up. And then as the body starts to go forward, we'll be able to tilt back a little bit still if we would like to feel like we're getting more power. But we're never going to have to use any of our power before it's time to throw, which is what we built all that power up for. So if we use a guy that has a very extreme example of this, we'll pull up Kevin Gosman here, and we will draw similar lines on his video. And I know the red bleachers and all the red cardinal gear is not ideal for my red marker here. I wish I knew how to change colors, but I don't. And we will see that little drift right there. Just that little bit where obviously he's looking back at the runner at second. When he turns his head, his nose is between these two lines here. But then before that leg gets to the top of the leg lift, we can already see his body starting to drift, starting to gain some momentum forward. And now he's got this power, so that way when his hands separate, he can get some of that tilt. He can get some of that tilt. He can get some of that tilt. But he's getting that tilt with the hands separating. The hands separating. The hands separating creates that shoulder tilt. And the shoulders don't feel like they need to tilt early is because they don't need to create that power. There's already that power in that delivery by going forward with early momentum. So instead of having to lean backwards and go down to feel strong, we can be just going forward and still be in very similar positions. Right? Boom, boom. All right, by the time you get to here, his shoulder angle and your shoulder angle are pretty much identical. So we're still going to be able to get to this good, strong position. We're just going to be able to get there with energy. We're going to be able to get there with some energy. Oh no, I ruined it. With some energy. So we'll want to go onto the YouTube page, probably your best resource for pitching information and knowledge. And we just scroll down how to get better. I want to get better. Do I want a stronger arm? Well, there's almost 60 videos there that got multiple ways in each video on how you can get stronger. There's probably a good 250 ways to strengthen your arm at home. We want stronger, better legs. Here's a playlist of those. But for you, we can go on this mechanical playlist, or mechanical drills playlist rather, how to gain ground during the leg lift. There's no audio in here. It's just watch stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 of the video. Get good at stage 1, then go to stage 2, and then you can challenge yourself with stage 3. But if I was you, I would just stick stage 1 and stage 2 until we can get together, and then I can really help teach you how to be good with stage 3. We learn how to do this well, and everything else that you already do in your mechanics well is going to help us start to throw a lot more strikes, a lot harder, with more movement and less stress on the arm. You'll be able to watch your video 2 times in a row here before we revisit the note and get you a big league video to help really see what we're trying to get to here. And once more. And that note that we had for you was to shorten up your stride. That way your foot can get in the ground sooner, helping your shoulders stay closed helping your shoulders stay closed until it's time for us to throw. So we can just see we got a real big reach, and like everyone is always talking about, like, yeah, we like big strides, we want to get out there, yada yada yada, right? But at a certain point, it's going to be too big. And a couple things that I like to look for that let me know that our stride may be too big. One of them is a big heel first landing, right? But there's plenty of guys that land heel first that don't have too big of strides. But this is one of the things I look for is our heel hitting and then taking a long time for the rest of our foot to get in the ground, right? If I see heel first and a long time before the toes get in the ground, that's the first thing that could be an indicator for too big of a stride. The second thing I look at is once that front foot is all the way into the ground, how far away from the pitching rubber is this back foot, right? And when there becomes a sizable gap between the pitching rubber and the foot, that is my second indicator that we may be striding too far, okay? Yes, we're going to see guys that are away from the pitching rubber when that front foot gets fully into the ground. Absolutely. But we can see by the time yours gets there, just how much almost between that heel getting in the ground, we're almost gliding in the air before we're back in the ground. We're almost kind of leaping into our stride. So that's my second indicator. My third indicator is our arm wants to be ready to start to throw from here, but it has to keep going to our head because our foot's not in the ground yet. And now it's like, well, I don't know where I can go from here. And now it's got to hold here and start to lay back. We can see it's going to start to lay back into external before the shoulders really start to rotate forward. So there's a lot of things in the upper body that cannot wait any longer to throw, and that's my third thing. And once I see 2, and definitely 3 things, but 2 or 3 things, or 2 or 3 of those things that I identified, that's when I start to really have a concrete, hey, we should look to shorten up our stride. So right now we're saying, boom, we're here, and we can kind of just try to stay along the lines of the print of the carpet for our straight. So there's like where our heel is at right now. Even if we just went to like here and the heel was hitting there and just getting the foot into the ground with a little bit better ankle discipline, instead of the ankle having the foot flexed up there, having it more relaxed into this range, or even better to this range. But we'll still be able to finish this rotation and finish this rotation. But as you can see, our arm will be in a much better position. Bam. If we could just have everything in the ground here, dude, we're fantastic. But things are just so long. It's so long that this hand now just comes racing into the head. And now we're in a very tight angle to throw from. And your arm is doing everything it can not to have to throw around itself, to not go around itself, and to stay going forward. And we're lucky that our chest and our trunk, this area of our body, knows how to get out in front to really help that arm get out in front. But the window for us to be there is so small that strike consistency is going to be lower than what it could or should be. The stress on our arm is going to be higher than it could or should be. And the movement on our fastball or any of our pitches really is going to be less than it could or should be. So we're just going to want to work on just getting this thing shortened up, not feeling like we got to reach so far out here. But just, like I said, if we even just thought about this support beam over here that my jacket's hanging from, if that support beam fell onto our mound, stay behind it. Don't try to stride over it. So, I mean, we can get you some big league videos to see, but I mean, really, there's not much for you to see. Because just shortening up your stride, right? Your stride. But if we get some guys that are good side angles, that's going to be a good side angle, right? I don't really know. Obviously, I know who they are, but I don't know if they're wind up or stretch. Not that it's going to matter, but I'll pause Christian when his front foot gets into the ground. Bam. And we can see the back foot is rotating. The back foot is going to get away from the pitching rubber, but that back foot is more connected or still touching when his front foot gets in the ground. Another Astro and Abreu. We'll do the same thing. We'll pause him when his front foot gets in the ground. And again, it's going forward for sure. And it's going to continue to go forward for sure. But the distance that his foot is away from the pitching rubber at this moment in time is very close to the distance that your front foot is away from the pitching rubber when your front foot gets in the ground. So with his foot in this angle, we can say like the front of the pitching rubber is here, and the back of the pitching rubber would be here, right? Obviously, it's going that way. But when that front foot gets into the ground, he's still pretty close to being connected to it. And then now we can say his foot's here, and that's the gap between the pitching rubber and his foot. And that's very close to the same gap that you have between the pitching rubber and your foot when your front foot gets fully into the ground. So there's another way to kind of see that stride length. Oh, I didn't mean, he was left anyway. Who cares? I care, but you don't. Give you Kimbrel. Same thing, we'll pause him at when his front foot hits the ground. So again, yeah, it's definitely rotating forward. Definitely going forward. It's definitely going to keep kind of going forward as he gets into release. But his distance from the pitching rubber right now, we get him back to that pitching rubber, which we could tell his foot's back in it right there. Right? That distance took him almost all the way to release, where that distance right there is almost what you're working with just to get your front foot in the ground. So just more examples of yes, we're looking for aggressive lower bodies. We want to produce power. We want to create length, but we don't need it to be that far away from the pitching rubber by the time that front foot gets in the ground. So some things that you could be doing to help you with this, bud, would be to go onto the YouTube page. So it's how to get better. Here's the arm care playlist. Here's the lower body playlist. Here's a mechanical drill playlist. We can come down here and we can do something like rotating through release. This is more an upper body thing, but we can just work on having those feet be a little bit closer, a little bit short of a stride as we work on that drill there. We could work on slide pad movements and just work on the slide pad, how far apart our feet get during the slide, not be as great or as large as it currently is. We could do front leg rotation drills where we could keep being aggressive with our front legs rotation, but make sure that we're not striding out super far while we do that. We could do some backside rotation drills. Whether we're sliding our body on the bench or not is not important. It's just getting that feel of that back leg rotating, so that way we can have it rotate in a shorter, quicker path than the larger, bigger path that it's currently taking for that backside to feel like it's doing all of its strong, powerful movements.